Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. Guys and girls, I'm a retired New York City police detective, and if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, consider hitting the subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon and when Ed Wallace is available when we go live or upload another video. Hey, today, before I get into it, I want to just tell you today's coverage, today's story is on a missing persons case. It's technically still a missing persons case. Ana Walshe, 39 years young, mother of 3 young children, went missing on New Year's Day from her home, and her husband is suspected of partaking in foul play. This is going to be a tough case to talk about. I got to tell you, as like I search my all the emails that come into Crime Time with DutyRon, this is the second most requested case, with the Idaho 4 obviously on the top of the list. But everybody is really wanting coverage on this case. So I've been getting lots of emails from shortly after the first of the year, and I had a first chance to look at it last night. And this is a winding case. Ana Walshe was supposed to go on a plane to Washington, D.C. On the morning of January 1st, 2023. We're going to get into all the particulars and the details. I got to just say, again, if you suffer from PTSD or things like what we're about to speak about is some very detailed information that could be troubling to some of you. I just give you guys a quick disclaimer on this thing. I want to say a special thank you to the replay viewers, the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the moderators, and everyone who positively engages in this community. You guys are what makes this a great place. So I give thanks and praise to each and every one of you guys. And as you can see, I'm in the studio today. I'm not at the office. I have 2 doctor's appointments. I already went to 1 routine doctor's appointment this morning, and I got another one later on in the afternoon. So I got a day of checkups, a checkup from the neck up and the neck down. So I'm doing, what I got to do to stay healthy. So these are just routine stuff, and I thank everyone for checking in with me. Brian Walshe, in federal custody, home confinement. He was convicted, I believe, of some fraud involved Andy Warhol art painting, and he was on house arrest, and he wasn't supposed to leave his home. But on the days that followed after his wife went missing, and again, he didn't report her missing. Her coworkers reported her missing. So we're going to get into, I'm going to show you the arraignment first. Thank you, Montana Mama. I don't have all the details on this, so Ed and I are going to do a complete forensics. Montana Mama, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate that. I'm going to go into I'm going to do an overview with you guys. So this is not going to be a deep dive into this case, but we're going to cover quite a bit of it here in the next 40 minutes. So yeah, Sandra Williams says, Ron, what's up with all the Bryans lately, right? Yeah, and this guy is a real winner. He's a real winner. He seems like a real creep. Someone in the chat said his face when he came out of court, I saw it, smiling while he's being walked out. The guy's a real piece of work. So, again, a lot of information coming in. So let me just present to you, in case you haven't seen it, I'm going to let you guys play his arraignment. He was only arraigned on misleading the police. There's no official charges, but we're going to hear that he went to Home Depot in a very short time after his wife was reported missing. He went to Home Depot and bought over $400 worth of supplies, including Tyvek suits, drop cloths, duct tape, and various other tapes, gloves, and so forth. And he also walked in there with a mask on, surgical mask, and gloves. He said he was taking his son for some type of, that was the only reason he could leave the house as per his federal confinement, home confinement. And he broke that federal confinement. So he'll be looking at charges like that. So let's let this play so you guys can take a peek at the arraignment, and you can hear what the prosecutor says and then we'll listen to a little bit of what the defense attorney says. Not much, but we'll listen to some.
The husband of missing Cohasset woman Ana Walshe is being arraigned in Quincy District Court this morning on charges of misleading
this is from
police
2 days ago.
in the investigation. Let's listen in.
It's Nicholas Taylor. Is that it? All right.
Mr. Brian Walshe, this is complaint 230136 out of Cohasset. You're charged with intimidation of a witness on the 8th of January 2023. A not guilty plea will be entered.
Do you understand that charge, Mr. Walsh? Yes. I'll hear from the Commonwealth.
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. Lynn Beeland for the Commonwealth. Your Honor, the charge before the court right now, the defendant is charged under the intimidation, that being misleading the police in the course of an investigation. The investigation was into the missing person of Ana Walshe. Ana is the wife of this defendant. She's 37 years old. They have 3 children, 2, 4, and 6. Ana Walshe was last seen on New Year's Day about between 4 and 6 a.m. in the morning. The defendant indicated that she left the house to go, she works in Washington, D.C. The defendant indicated in a subsequent interview that she left the house around 6 a.m., taking an Uber or Lyft to go to the airport, where she was going to go to work in D.C. That was the last time she was seen. In the course of the investigation, police were notified around January 4th by her employees in Washington, D.C. that she had not shown up for work on January 4th. That was the first time that she was notified that she was missing. Up until this point, the defendant had not notified anyone that she was missing. In the investigation was determined that she actually had a plane ticket for January 3rd, which she did not use, and did not show up at the airport nor her DC job or her apartment in DC. It was indicated that the defendant, police checked during the course of this investigation. There was not a Uber or any kind of Lyft that had picked her up on January 1st. In fact, in the course of the investigation, it was determined that her cell phone pinged in the area of the house, which is located on Chief Justice Cushing Way, that her phone pinged on the 1st and the 2nd, which is after the defendant had said she had left. Additionally, the defendant right now was on house arrest, pending sentencing in federal court. Out of that probation and condition, he was to report his whereabouts if he was to leave the house. He indicated as part of the investigation, when police spoke with him, that on January 1st, he went to his mother's house. However, it took him a lot longer because he got lost going to his mother's house in Swampscott. He also subsequently indicated and stated to the police that he went to Whole Foods and CVS. Police subsequently did surveillance and checked. There was no surveillance or indication that he went to Whole Foods nor CVS. He indicated he purchased some items. There's no receipts for him having purchased that. He then returned home. Surveillance was checked by several police during this time frame. These statements caused a lot of delay as part of the investigation, as police now were focusing on the North Shore. He further indicated that on January 2nd, as he was supposed to report in, that the only time he left is that he went to take his son for some ice cream. Surveillance checked during the investigation indicated that defendant, in fact, on January 2nd, sometime after 4 o'clock, went to the Home Depot, which is in Auckland. He's on surveillance at that time, purchasing about $450 worth of cleaning supplies. That would include mops, bucket, tops, T-Vex, drop cloths, as well as various kinds of tape. He's on surveillance at that time on January 2nd, even though he said he never left the house. Police obtained a search warrant and actually searched the house with crime scene services. During that time, they found blood in the basement. Blood was found in the basement area, as well as a knife, which also contained some blood.
Could you repeat that last time, Mr.?
Yes, in the basement, crime scene services recovered and found blood in the basement area, in a section of the basement. There was also a knife that was found. On the knife, there was also blood, and part of the knife was damaged. Your Honor, these various statements caused a delay in the investigation, to the point that during the time frame when he didn't report his wife and gave various statements, that allowed him time to either clean up evidence, dispose of evidence, in causing a delay. As of this time, Ana Walshe has not been found. So because of that, the Commonwealth is asking $500,000 cash bail. At this time, these are the charges.
Good morning, Your Honor. Mr. Walsh's wife has been missing since January 1st, and it is true that her employer contacted the police on January 4th. However, that was as a result.
Again, this is the defense attorney. They got tough jobs, these people, but her job is to defend this guy, and you're going to hear her try to do that, but it's not going to work.
Of Mr. Walshe, Brian Walshe, contacting the employer to say, I haven't heard from my wife. The employer suggested that their security team, who is former law enforcement officer, contact both the Cohasset Police and the DC Metro Police, which he did. Mr. Walshe has given several interviews. We have consented to searches of his home. We have consented to searches of his property. We have consented to searches of his cell phone. I negotiated with assistant district attorney, to demote you.
What she's not telling the court is that he consented to searches after he cleaned up and after he purchased all of the cleanup supplies from Home Depot. She's just saying that he consented to searches, not saying when. So that's interesting.
Lynn Beeland, on the terms of that, to protect attorney-client, he has been incredibly cooperative. The charges are not anything relating, he's not charged with murder. He's charged with misleading investigators by not saying, as I understand it, he went to Home Depot in Rockland. He did say he went to Press in Norwell, and as Your Honor knows, Rockland Home Depot was right next to Norwell. If in fact he was there, it was next in the town next to him. With respect to the other alleged omission,
this guy is much sloppier than Brian Kohlberger. And you know what? He left a treasure trove of evidence behind. There's no question about it. And Barbara, that's a great question. Barbara George asked, does ankle bracelets have tracking? Some of the feds, he's on federal home confinement. Some of them do have GPS tracking to know that where their whereabouts if in fact the person goes out. So this may very well come into play here, but I think that's not even going to be a main sticking issue. The main sticking issue is going to be the DNA that we heard the prosecutor say that there was a knife at the home at the place of her being reported missing, and blood recovered, and the knife was broken. And I'm going to put myself back on so I could show you guys quickly. We had Chief of Staff from the New York City Medical Examiner's Office, Barbara Butcher, on with us, and we were talking about the Idaho 4, and she talked about the knife and the potentials when somebody stabs somebody with a knife, that if it hits bone, the knife sometimes breaks. And you heard the prosecutor say that crime scene, and I wrote it down, crime scene unit found blood and also a broken knife at the location. And we're going to also hear about his Google searches on how to dispose of a 115-pound woman, which his wife happens to be 5'2" and 115 pounds. So his home confinement was from a federal charge for I think he was selling artwork or, high-end artwork that was not actual, Andy Warhol, I believe I read quickly. So he, he's on home confinement for something other than this. So we're going to get into it, but I'm not going to play the rest of this criminal defense attorney because she just really goes on to ask for no bail and ask for the federal court to decide if he should be placed out on bail. But given the treasure trove of information that they had at this time, I don't see any judge on the federal or on the local level letting him go. So I want to play a quick little piece. This is from Newsnation, and it's about evidence. It's about them recovering a hatchet at a landfill and various other items. And I got a couple of more pieces to play for you because they tried to get some stuff out of an incinerator at the garbage landfill, at a trash incinerator, but I think that they might have gotten there a little too late. But let's play this piece from Newsnation. It's a pretty good one, but I got a ton of stuff to show you guys. So I'm gonna put this back from the beginning and cue it up for you. So let's take a peek at this. This is just from yesterday. So this is pretty recent. So this is from yesterday's.
I'm Nicole Burley. It is Tuesday, January 10th. This is Newsnation Rush Hour. Let's get right to our top story. It's getting a lot of attention all around the country. New details in the search for a missing mom. Investigators finding evidence today at a trash station near Boston. Ana Walshe has been missing since New Year's Day. Her husband, Brian, has since been arrested for misleading investigators. Prosecutors saying he failed to tell police he went to a hardware store the day his wife disappeared, purchased more than $400 worth of cleaning supplies. Newsnation's Evan Lambert is live outside the couple's Massachusetts home. So, Evan, what else have we learned today?
Nicole, the DA's office telling us tonight that they are done searching and processing the couple's home. Here behind me, we can see that because police are no longer here. But the question remains, where is Ana Walshe? We're hearing for the first time from missing Massachusetts mom Ana Walshe in her own words. In a 2021 letter to the judge in her husband Brian's federal art fraud case, Walshe gushed over Brian, saying, quote, "I am writing this letter to you to express my gratitude for having allowed Brian to spend the last 8 months at home supporting his children and closest family members." She went on, quote, "Brian has been working consistently on breaking the past habits of his family, and we are all looking forward to the new chapter of his life." But now, the 47-year-old husband and father of 3 is charged with lying to police during the course of the investigation into his wife's disappearance on January 1st. Investigators revealing they found possible evidence at a trash transfer station north of Boston near Walsh's mother's home and evidence inside the couple's basement.
Crime scene services recovered and found blood in the basement area, in a section of the basement. There was also a knife that was found. On the knife, there was also blood, and part of the knife was damaged.
A source also telling Newsnation Tuesday a man by the name of Brian Walshe, but with a different spelling, made an appointment last week at this car detailing place near his Cohasset home, but never showed.
Isn't that interesting? He made an appointment to have his car detailed because that probably, more than likely, was the car that he used to move her remains, because the remains are not anywhere to be found at this point. So, yeah, he was on federal house arrest. Thank you for that super chat. And thank you, Dr. Ed and Julie, for your $20 super chat. They say, I believe this is from Julie, but I could be wrong, but it's probably from both, obviously. Thank you, DutyRon. This is so sad. I agree. Yeah, he's on house arrest for a different set of felony charges. So he put a auto detailing appointment together, but then had buyer's remorse and said, wait a minute, I better not have somebody clean up this car, because if somebody cleans up this car, they're going to notify the police, right? He probably came to his senses and said, what am I doing? I'm going to send it to this auto detail shop, and they're going to see blood stains, and they're not going to call the police. They're going to call the police. That was the one sensible thing that he did. But let's listen in.
Good afternoon, Brian Walshe. I hope all is going well. I was just reaching out to basically everybody I could. Ana hasn't been in touch for a few days.
And we're also hearing from Brian. The podcast, The Case, first publishing a voicemail purportedly from Brian to a friend on Wednesday, the day Ana's work reported her missing.
If you know anyone that might have had contact with her, calling everyone. So sorry to bother you. Sure, everything's fine.
Brian remains in jail, held on $500,000 bond. Officials say the couple's 3 young children are in state custody. And as investigators wait to test the evidence, they say there are no imminent plans to change the charges against Brian Walshe. Nicole?
Thank you for watching.
How crazy is that? I mean, like everybody's saying, now these children don't have a mother. They're definitely not going to have a father. And they're in state custody for the time being until somebody of competent authority could take them into custody. It's just sad. It's sad but true. I'm going to play a piece here about him Googling various different ways to get rid of a body. And this is going to be this might be stuff that might be sensitive to you guys, but I think it's important that we hear about how he planned. And again, he's not been charged with her disappearance, and those charges are forthcoming because there's a whole bunch of evidence, not only just forensically, but there's going to be electronic evidence. So again, this is a case that the science is going to solve this. The science of blood and evidence that's collected at the scene and also collected at the landfill. All of this is going to tie right back into Brian Walshe. So let's let this piece play, and then I'll be right back with you guys.
As we know, are processing clues. Investigators, as we know, are processing clues that could tell them what happened to Ana. So let's bring in criminologist and forensic psychologist Casey Jordan to discuss where investigators are in this case. Casey, thank you so much for your time. We just heard Evan's report there. The evidence really seems to be building against Brian Walshe. What is the likelihood in your mind that this is anything other than the tragedy it more and more is appearing to be?
I think that everything is pointing with a mountain of circumstantial evidence so far to the idea that Brian Walshe is responsible for the disappearance, if not the death, of his wife. And the fact that he isn't talking is okay for now because they have him in custody, on this $500,000 bail. Believe me, other charges will be forthcoming, but the point is, I think that they wanted to get the children into state custody, as your reporter pointed out, while they conduct this investigation. But the evidence is overwhelmingly pointing towards the fact that she suffered some sort of disappearance. I think we're just all talking about death within that home. And the fact that there's a hacksaw, a bloody knife, torn clothing, computer searches, appointments for car detailing. It sounds like another case of the missing Jennifer Dulos, or a dozen other cases I could talk about. But we all know how most of those have ended.
Sadly, we do. Casey, you just went through that long list. So, of everything we've learned so far. And hearing that, it really seems like Brian has made a lot of dumb moves, really, for lack of a better word. It seems like he wasn't even trying to hide a lot of his questionable actions, his questionable movements. Do you agree?
Well, I don't know that he wasn't trying to hide them. As I've interviewed dozens of killers, and very often, as soon as they've killed someone in a peak of rage or impulsivity, they go through a manic stage where they are convinced that they're going to be caught and they're desperately trying to cover it up. This is most common in crimes that are not planned. And in that process, they make 100 mistakes. Even the best planned crime can make mistakes. I mean, honestly, today, who can make a computer search for how to get rid of a woman's body that weighs X number of pounds and not think that a forensic computer search isn't going to reveal that? Not the least of which he's under house arrest. So they can monitor his every move and know where he has been. All roads point back to the house where the bloody tools have been found, and really raise the question of whether or not she died in that house and her body was, and I don't mean to be morbid, but dismembered in that house and disposed of within that house.
And I want to add, to this, that I feel very strongly that he killed her in that house, in the basement. So here's some of the fact sheets that they put up on Brian Walshe. He was seen on surveillance buying $450 worth of cleaning supplies the day after Ana vanished. And yes, she's from Eastern Europe. She has an Eastern European accent, and that's part of the report that I read. But a beautiful young 39-year-old mom of 3. Just a senseless act of violence, domestic violence here. There's nothing that would make sense to justify something like this. This is unjustifiable. But he bought $450 worth of cleaning supplies by cash at a Home Depot, Tyvek suits, black masking tape, black gloves. He wore a black mask, drop cloths, duct tape, and cleaning supplies. That was just a day later. And some of those, I believe some items were recovered at the landfill. We're going to get into that in a few, but let's let the rest of this play. Arrested and charged for lying to the police in connection with his wife's disappearance, and was on home confining, waiting a sentence in an art fraud case. So art fraud had to have been something of a large scale because the feds were involved in it. I'm not really 100% sure on that, but we will look into all of that. But really, when it goes to relation to this case, that really doesn't have any bearing, because what we're looking at here is a missing woman who, by all means, is potentially not alive at this time and killed by all things are pointing to her husband. So.
A way that wouldn't be found. But it's a misnomer to think no body, no crime. There have been many, many cases where we have gotten convictions without a body for first-degree murder.
Absolutely. And that's my next question. How likely is it that we will see more serious charges brought against Walshe, even if a body is never recovered?
Very likely.
And make no mistake, they have arrested him for, standing in the way of the investigation just to get him out of the house so that they can conduct this investigation.
Yeah, and very good point. That was an awesome point, because I was going to talk about that. Basically, keeping him on $500,000 bail and not letting him get out of the jail that he's in right now gives the investigators all the time to methodically and properly collect all the evidence that they need to collect to have a strong case of circumstantial evidence against him, i.e. the blood, the various tools and equipment that was used, the different blood where they can connect his blood or his hairs and DNA to the scene and to her disappearance. And they can do this in a very non-rushed way because he's in custody. He's not going anywhere. Basically, we used to refer to it as our prisoner, our defendant, our perpetrator is on ice. He's on ice. So he's inside. He can't do anything. He can't try to fix or clean anything. He can't make really much contact. So this is an ideal situation for the Massachusetts authorities, whether it's the state and the feds involved in this investigation. It looks like the Cohasset, Massachusetts Police Department is the lead on this case, because that's the place of residence. That's their geographical area that they cover. So the police department there is working hard on getting all the evidence. I just want to play this thing because this is a Fox News clip, and this is pretty up to date about them finding stuff at the landfill, and I think this is going to really give it to you pretty good, so you guys can see the enormity of this case from this news report.
The top with the very newest developments in a missing woman's disappearance. I-team sources saying investigators found bloody bags, a hatchet, a hacksaw, and a rug while searching for
bloody bags, a hatchet, and a hacksaw. Oh, God. What is wrong with these people?
Bags, a hatchet. I-team sources saying investigators found bloody bags, a hatchet, a hacksaw, and a rug while searching for evidence at a trash facility. But we've now learned the search at Ana Walshe's home in Cohasset is over, at least for now. Good evening to you. I'm David Wade.
And I'm Lisa Hughes. I-team sources also broke the news today that investigators tried to search a trash incinerator in Wareham, but may have arrived too late. We have a lot to cover in this story. Our team coverage begins with WBZ's Jordan Jagalinzer and what investigators have found so far.
Did she say Jagaloon? Or she said something close to it. Jagaloser? I got to go back to that. Can anybody pick that up for me?
Jordan Jagalinzer and what investigators have found so far.
Processing of the couple's home was completed here in Cohasset just this afternoon. In the past day, we've learned about new evidence found in connection to the case, disturbing close friends of the Walshe family who say the two appeared to have a great relationship.
Just knowing her and even having known them as a couple, it's shocking. It's devastating.
Friends of the Walshe family in disbelief over what's unfolded over the past 48.
That's the face. I mean, oh my God. This is the face that we were all talking about early on, right? This guy comes out of that court proceeding that we just watched, and he's gloating. Look at his face. That's unfreaking real, man. Put a 1 in the chat if you're disgusted by that. That is unbelievable. And I know I'll take some stuff for this, but really, come on, guy. You got to be kidding me.
Belief over what's unfolded over the past 48 hours in the case of missing Cohasset mom, Ana Walshe.
There was never even remotely a red flag.
Pamela Hart and Alyssa Kirby tell WBZ Ana and her husband Brian Walshe had a good relationship, even while being long distance with the mom of 3 working in Washington, D.C.
They would tell each other everything, and they were called each other multiple times a day.
But now they're doubting everything they knew after Brian Walshe was charged with misleading investigators. The WBZ.
So this is contradictory because it seems on the surface that everything was okay. And this is a coworker, right? Let's listen again.
In D.C.
They would tell each other everything, and they were called each other multiple times a day.
But now they're doubting everything they knew after Brian Walshe was charged with misleading investigators. The WBZ I-team learning just hours later trash bags with blood, a hatchet, a rug, and used cleaning supplies were all found last night at the Peabody transfer station.
With every passing moment, I'm sick to my stomach seeing the news hour to hour.
CMAS in West Wareham also searched by police. The waste-to-energy facility converts trash into electricity. WBZ learning the process happens quickly, in about a day. So if anything did end up there, it's already been through the incineration plant. Sources tell us Brian Walshe's car has been impounded. Our I-team learning there is evidence.
I want to just say that is not devastating to this case. It sucks that they did incinerate the trash from probably the first and the second and the third, but they have a treasure trove from what they've released at his arraignment and the reports that are coming out. They have a knife at the scene in his home in the basement that's broke. They have blood. They have a ton of other evidence that can seal the deal on this guy. So don't get discouraged by this, because I know a lot of people are going to get caught up on this part, but it would only help to have more. More is better, right? More is better evidence wise. But I think they have enough to put this put this guy away.
It was recently cleaned. Prosecutors say he told investigators Ana left Cohasset for D.C. the morning of January 1st, but her best friend, Alyssa Kirby, told us that never added up with what Ana told her the Thursday before she went missing.
She really wanted to be with the family and the kids, and I knew she had told me that she had wrapped up everything with work. So when I heard that, I really just, my intuition said that that wasn't right.
Ana's phone pinged at the house on New Year's Day and the day after. Sunday, blood was found in the basement of their home, along with a broken knife. Prosecutors say Brian Walshe is on video at Home Depot purchasing $450 worth of cleaning supplies, including mops, buckets, tarps, and tape.
I keep praying that in all these trash facilities, that she's not found there, and really so that, you know, we do have somewhere to go to honor her, and for her children to have somewhere to go to honor her.
So sad.
The Walshes' 3 children are currently in state custody. Brian Walshe is being held on $500,000.
So unfortunately, these kids are now in state custody, and they're not in familiar surroundings, and it's just terrible all around. But now we need to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together. I foresee an arrest is imminent. An arrest is forthcoming, like very quickly. So they're just working on the case. They're working on what they have. I wanted to just read to you quickly because Fox does a really good job at taking pictures, videos, and so forth at the scene. I want to show you some video of the dogs that were out searching the property, the search that went on in the house. But before I do, I want you to hear from one of this is a friend of Brian, of the husband, and he comes to meet this couple through. He was friends with him, but he speaks so wonderfully about Ana, and I just want you guys to hear what this guy has to say. And they do an interview with him because he was with her on New Year's Eve. So this is a pretty important report for us to listen to. So this tells quite a tale here.
A family friend who was at the New Year's Eve party the night before her disappearance says he didn't see any signs that anything was wrong. He's only speaking to WBZ's Julie McDonald, who's live for us in Cohasset tonight. Julie?
Well, David, the husband and wife hosted Jem Mutlu for that New Year's Eve celebration. They cooked, they laughed, they played with the couple's children. He describes an evening here at their home that was completely happy and normal. Now, this friend, Jem, actually met Ana through Brian. He knew the husband first. They've been friends for years. And despite that long friendship, he had suspicions prior to Brian's arrest that there may have been foul play.
The whole thing is a tragedy, Julie. The whole thing is a tragedy. It's a tragedy. There are, in the words of a friend, there are no winners in this story.
It has been agony without Ana, the days stretching into more than a week since the beloved mother, wife, sister, friend, and daughter has been seen.
We're in absolute shock and disbelief as to
Jem Mutlu may have been the very last friend to hug Ana before she disappeared. He'd been hosted by the Cohasset husband and wife just hours before.
Brian had cooked an elaborate meal for us, and we hugged and celebrated and toasted and just what you do over New Year's. And there was a lot of looking forward to the new year.
A new year now plagued with worry and fear for her safety.
Both Ana and Brian have been individually and together very impactful on my life. A part of me had this suspicion all along that there may have been foul play, and that somehow just the story wasn't adding up.
Those painful suspicions confirmed when Brian Walshe was arrested for misleading investigators. With a mother missing and a husband in handcuffs, friends' laser focus is on 3 precious boys.
My biggest fear had shifted towards the children. I wondered if the children were safe.
The Walshe sons are physically safe, and despite frightening details presented in court, Ana Walshe's loved ones pray and plead and cling to a possibility of a mother returning to her sweet sons who need her.
Believe it or not, I still have a modicum of hope that somehow I think you got it.
Very sad, and you could see the pain on his face. So again, folks, there's no winners here. This is just heartbreaking, devastating. There's no real answer. There's no answer for why someone should do this to not only a human being, but their significant other, the mother of their children. It's just horrific. So I wanted to play this little Fox coverage, this little Fox piece, because this shows again quite a bit of work that was being done outside the house and so forth. But I feel strongly that the evidence that is collected in this crime scene, at the crime scene, at the home, at the landfill, and at other locations that are unbeknownst to us at this time, is going to be significant. And I'm looking also just to show you, because I want to grab a couple of things to give you guys a little bit of an overview. They did do a little bit of a timeline, but it wasn't really this timeline is kind of, it's all over the place because there's so many different moving parts to it. But I want to show you this, what I wanted you to see, and this is just a search, and I think this is, this will give you guys at what effort was being put forward by the local police to find her or to find any evidence. So I'm just gonna let this play. There's really no talking to this. So they're just searching, for any evidence or anything. Looking through the wood. Right. All right. And you can see in the foreground, there's people in the back in the woods there searching. This is a pool. It looks like a backyard pool that they're looking through and they're checking. So they're trying to cover all grounds here. And this was early on. I think it's important to just see that the kind of work that the police department does on these cases. Again, they put everything that they can into it. I wanted to just read for you this bit of the timeline. So there's a total of 72 unaccounted hours between the time Ana Walshe was reported and left her Massachusetts home and when she was reported missing. So 72 hours went by unaccounted for, with very little details about her whereabouts in between. Ana Walshe, 39, of Cohasset, Massachusetts, left her home January 1st. This is according to the husband, the story, and I don't buy this story at all, and was supposed to get a ride share to Logan International Airport. The police were subsequently figured out that ride share never happened. She was supposed to fly from Logan International Airport, Logan International to Washington, D.C. Cohasset Police Chief Bill Quigley told reporters there's no confirmation that was even physically picked up or took the ride to the airport, but it could have been done off the books, according to the chief. But I believe that it's been confirmed that she never boarded any flights or any commercial airlines to Washington, D.C. Investigators followed up with the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. And January 1st, between 4 and 5 a.m., she allegedly left her home in the early morning hours. This is according to her husband. Most likely between 4 and 5 a.m. while her family was sleeping. How convenient. There's no video or images of her leaving, and security cameras haven't picked up images of her as of Saturday afternoon. Thank you, Jules, for becoming a member, and thank you to everybody in the chat. Her plan was to take a ride share to the airport and a flight to D.C., where she works for a real estate company, Tishman Speyer. Walsh's flight to D.C. was originally booked for January 3rd, but police said during a press conference that she left earlier for some type of emergency at work. There's no evidence of her boarding any flights. I'm just reading this off to you guys, or she ever made it to the airport, says Police Chief Quigley. January 4th, Walsh's husband and her employer reports her missing. That's the 72 hours that we talked about. Walsh's husband and her employer and friends have been cooperative in what Police Chief Quigley described as a missing persons case. January 6th, the Cohasset Police teamed up with outside agencies, including the Massachusetts State Police, to search a wooded area. And that's what we saw there near the Walsh's home, and set up a staging area along Route 3A. That's January 6th. A 2-alarm fire broke out. This is what I found to be very interesting in one of Walsh's former homes at 725 Jerusalem Road in Cohasset. Is that occupied, or was that an empty or a vacant home? Did he in fact bring her remains there and try to burn it? I don't know. All 4 occupants, okay, so now they're saying there were occupants, and 3 young children made it out safely, so it wasn't a vacant home. But that's coincidental. The cause of the fire is undetermined at this time and remains under investigation by the Office of the State Fire Marshals and Cohasset Police. It does not appear to be suspicious, and this is as of January 6th. They show pictures of it. January 7th, the Cohasset Police and Massachusetts State Police resumed their search. Multiple quadrants of the wooded area by the Walsh's home. Investigators are seen, as we showed, going through the pool and searching the house, and didn't provide any updates. Before Saturday's search, Quigley told Fox and Friends, "Every hour we're getting more and more concerned for her well-being." Obviously, yeah. Police describe Ana Walshe as being 5'2", 115 pounds. She's got brown hair, brown eyes, olive skin complexion, and is believed she speaks with an Eastern European accent. I believe she's from Serbia, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Let me know in the comment section if you have any information on that. Hi, Nikki Bella. Good to see you. So that's what they had up on Fox, but as we know, there's a whole bunch of new information that came out, and I have a police press conference from earlier. I'm not going to play that. Fox and Friends, and we played the family member. There was also a report that Brian had a falling out with his father. So I want to play this piece because this is potentially important. The falling out with his dad was over money, and that's interesting. By a show of hands, did anybody see that report about the money dispute with Brian and his father, Brian Walshe, and his dad? We're going to play this little piece real quick, and then I'll wrap it up.
Learn more about Ana Walshe, her husband, and their relationship. WBZ's Louisa Moeller speaks exclusively with a longtime friend of Brian Walsh's father. She's live in Swampscott with that story tonight. Louisa?
Well, David, we know that Brian Walshe is close with his mother, who lives here in Swampscott, but this friend told us he used to be very close with his father. What happened was a falling out over money and the allegation that Brian destroyed his father's will. Now, this friend asked to remain anonymous.
I was probably as close to the inner dynamics of that family as anyone.
This man says he first met Brian Walshe when he was 6 years old. A close friend of his father's, Thomas Walshe, he describes Brian as well-behaved and entitled.
Brian was not like other young people. He was always dressed in Armani and penny loafers.
Interesting. Brian was not like other young people. He was always dressed in Armani and penny loafers when he was like 13. I never saw him in dungarees. He just wanted the finest things in life. Hence him trying to make lots of money off of selling fake Andy Warhol art, and he got arrested for it. So interesting here.
When he was like 13, I never saw him in dungarees. He just wanted the finest things in life.
Brian is now behind bars, accused of misleading the investigation into the disappearance of his wife, Ana. And this friend says Brian's manipulative behavior started with a falling out with his father over money. He says the two did not speak for over a decade.
This was a kid who never gave his father an ounce of teenage angst. He didn't smoke, he didn't drink, he didn't do drugs. He was very close, and he was very respectful to his father. He was charming, and when he did this, it like stabbed his dad in the heart.
Brian's father, the former head of neurology at Brigham and Women's Hospital, died in 2018. According to court documents, Thomas Walshe cut his son out of the will. Then Brian is accused of destroying the will, appointing himself the personal representative of the estate, and liquidating over $100,000 from bank accounts in the name of Thomas Walshe.
There was indeed a will, and there were specified inheritors, and Brian was not one of them.
In 2021, Brian was convicted of fraud for stealing a friend's Andy Warhol paintings and selling them, as well as fake versions of them. Despite this history, this man says...
There you go. I knew that we were going to pick that up in one of these reports. So, yeah, I did read about the Andy Warhol fake that he sold. And this all revolves around money. Now, I don't know what the connection is with his wife, and people in the chat are saying that she was about to turn him in or she was about to leave him. That could very well be his motivation for killing her. And again, this is all alleged. We don't know, but all fingers are pointing to that. So, yeah, he's definitely a con. Let's listen to the rest of this.
In 2021, Brian was convicted of fraud for stealing a friend's Andy Warhol paintings and selling them, as well as fake versions of them. Despite this history, this man says he is still perplexed by Ana Walshe's disappearance.
He was not trustworthy. He did things that were shameful and horrible to someone he really cared about, but I never saw him raise his voice.
Now, coming up at 6, we dig even deeper into this story. The friend and another family member accused Brian of stealing over $1 million from his father years ago and then trying to sell his house after he died.
What a piece of crap, really. I mean, that says it all right there. And again, you know, sometimes we hear money is the root of all evil, but we're going to have a special guest. I think tonight I'm going to have a show for you guys. The Detective Tom from the NYPD Auto Crime Division, and he told us in previous live streams we're going to be talking about Brian Kohlberger's vehicle and how he tried to clean it up and what he could have done and what he could have left behind. But Tom, our good friend from the Auto Crimes NYPD special unit, he told us that 75% of all murders involves a car. What do we have here in this case with Brian Walshe? We have a car. So true to form, Tom, our detective from the NYPD's Auto Crimes Unit, he's going to come on, and I'm going to also start to squeeze him a little bit about Brian Walshe, as well as talk about Brian Kohlberger and what they tried to do with their cars. And it's coincidental, but it's the same line of thinking here, right? He said 75% of homicides, 75% of murder cases, a vehicle is involved. Hence the New York City Police Department's Auto Crime Division. They come into play in all of these, in lots of these cases. So we're gonna, you know, talk with him tonight. We're gonna see about, you know, what his thoughts and what his feelings are in this case, and we're gonna talk about it with him tonight. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm going to try to shoot for 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I will put a video up, a scheduled video. If you're not yet subscribed, this is Crime Time with DutyRon. I am a retired New York City police detective. Please consider hitting the red subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you get all things DutyRon when I go live or upload another video. Thank you to the replay viewers, the subscribers, the Patreon supporters, and everybody who is here who positively engages in the community. You guys are what makes this an unbelievably great place. So I wanted to, did I play this? I did. I think I did play it. Court docs. The Daily Beast did a piece on this, and they talked about the former charges. I'm gonna cover this with Ed. We're gonna do the forensic side of this. So I want to say thank you to everybody that's been here and hanging out with us. Cindy, great to see you. Boxing MMA all the way from Ireland. How are you, Gary? Great to see you. Aunt BB2, thank you for being here. A lot of people are hanging out. Hello from the UK. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. All right. Yeah, guys, if you haven't hit the like button, give it a thumbs up, share it out onto your social media platform. We are conversating and talking and covering the case of Ana Walshe, a 39-year-old mother who went missing on January 1st, New Year's Day of 2023. You know, and by all things evidence-wise, all the evidentiary stuff that has been processed and taken into custody, all fingers are pointing to the husband here. I think we're going to see something quickly in the next couple of days, if not sooner. KNS, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate the support. And for those of you who give super thanks, that's after the live is over. It's a way to give the creator, myself and Ed, a super chat while you're watching the replay. Thank you to the super thanks people. You guys are great. All of the people who are here and that are engaging in the community. Thank you, Diane. Just a great group of people, and Ed and I are very, very pleased and honored that you guys are here with us. All right, so we're going to cover the story closely. I'm going to be on it with Ed Wallace. We're going to do everything forensics. There's a ton of forensics to talk about, a ton. So we're going to be covering it closely. I'll see you on the next one. As I like to always end these, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially this family, this victim and her family. You know, Ana Walshe, we send your family over in Serbia strength, prayers, and positive vibes. And these surviving children, they're small, 2, 4, and 6 years of age. What a shame. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. I'll talk to you on the next one.